Hello, welcome to Cable's Conquests. I'm your host, Archie Cable, and we're here to talk about Marvel Crisis Protocol.
The name's Cable. Remember it.
Hello, welcome back to Cable's Conquests, episode 5, and it's part 1 of a 2-part episode where we talk about the Mutant Weekender, which is a 2-day event that we finished a few days ago in London. So tonight we're recording on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day, and I'm joined, my romantic partner in crime is Curtis. How are you doing?
Hi, Archie. Yeah, I'm doing very well, thank you. Very excited to be spending my Valentine's Day with you. After a great weekend spent with you, I get to spend the most romantic moments as well.
Yeah, we're lucky. So the event that we're talking about is this Mutant Weekender, which was in Elephant and Castle in London. And you were part of the team that ran it. So why don't you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, so it was actually, if I toot my own trumpet, this was my brainchild. I really, really wanted to host a big 2-day MCP event. I've hosted 2-day events before for other game systems. I love hosting. I'm not the greatest player, as listeners will have already sussed out from a few of the previous episodes, but I really, really do enjoy events and I enjoy hosting them. So I wanted to make that happen. Obviously, Dr. Norbert is the lifeblood of the MCP scene in London. So, honestly, to make anything happen, best person to go to is to go to Norbert. So I joined up with him and some of the members of our local scene, and yeah, we managed to get ourselves a venue. Between us, we put together the pack, and yeah, we were able to put on a 48-player 2-day event, the first one of its kind for MCP in London.
Fantastic. Yeah, 48 players is huge. So it wasn't a simple Swiss format. So we had 4 games on day 1, 3 games on day 2.
Yeah.
But what was the event style?
So I wanted to model this on like a World Cup. So I wanted there to be a group stage which would then qualify you for like a knockout round, and then eventually you'd get a winner crowned at the end. But at the same time, having been to lots of 2-day events myself, I recognize that when you go, say, 2 and 2 or 1 and 3 on day 1, you've won your game, so you're not right at the bottom, but you're not really playing for too much. So what I also really wanted to happen is that there be something for everyone to play for on day 2. So what we did on day 1, we had 8 groups of 6 players. And if you finished first in your group, you qualified for the Mutant Weekender Cup. That's the creme de la creme, the top 8 at the whole competition, battling out for first place. Then if you finished second or third, you'd qualify for the Mutant Weekender Plate. So like the sort of the second tier, but there'd be 16 players then sort of battling out on day 2 over 3 games for that. And then the 4th, 5th, and 6th place in the group would then go into the Shield. So hopefully, you get put into the group stages are very different to normal. That was quite fun. We had a live draw. It sort of built the atmosphere, built the tension for the day. People were looking forward to seeing who they were playing and having maybe different opponents they might normally have. But if you got drawn in that really, really rough group, or with some top table players in there, and you had a terrible day 1, all was not lost, because day 2 you'd be playing with people who were like-minded, similar skill levels hopefully, and you're fighting for a podium place. So yeah, quite unique, hopefully loads of fun. I'm hoping we've had some good feedback. Obviously, don't want to spoil it too much. Did you enjoy it, Archie?
Yeah, it was a great event, and what I really enjoyed about it was my first event where it felt more kind of like a US style convention, because we had some kind of casual pickup games on the Friday evening.
Yep.
Where a bunch of people came down. I think it was from like 3 or 4 o'clock. The venue was open, and we just played some games. Curtis and I, we both played Separation Anxiety, which is the 4-player kind of casual game, which was great fun.
That was really, really good fun. I'd had a few drinks at this point, and I apologise to you, Archie. I wasn't a very good student when you were trying to teach us all how to play. I might not have listened, but I still enjoyed the game nonetheless, and I think I picked it up quite quickly after a few dice rolls.
Yeah, it was reasonably simple, but we got it. We got there in the end. And then on the Saturday night, we similarly had a few drinks while we had a Marvel and DC quiz. So it wasn't just about the kind of big competitive 7 games. There was so much else going on. Loads of prizes for all aspects of the hobby, which is always great.
Yeah, absolutely. And Norbert did an absolutely fantastic job in getting in an absolute ton of sponsors, all hobby related, which allowed us to give prizes for first, second, and third in each of the categories on day 2. We had a best painted prize, first, second, and third. We had best table prizes for first, second, and third, and yeah, loads of different spot prizes and stuff. So that was really, really great. I think like at least half the people who turned up went away with some form of swag, and everyone got given a dice tray and stuff, all provided by the sponsors, which was great. And we had people coming up from all over Europe. We had
Yeah.
Belgians there, we had people from Ireland, we had someone from Denmark, as well as mixing with our local London crowd. So yeah, I know what you mean. It definitely felt like a different style of event to what we're
Yeah.
sort of used to.
It was fantastic, and yeah, we got to meet a lot of people in the MCP community, which is always good.
Yeah, definitely.
So while you are hosting, I'm playing. So we talked a little bit about my roster and the practice tournament from the last episode, but let's get into the roster building section where I'll tell you a bit about what's changed.
You're boring me. If you want to help me nail him, get your team together and let's get started.
So, Archie, hopefully the listeners have already got a grasp of what your roster looked like if they'd listened to the previous episode of you going down to Christ at the Cafe for a bit of a practice. Obviously, that event didn't go entirely your way. We talked about some potential changes. You went away, you went back to the drawing board. What changes did you make?
So maybe it's easiest. I'll run through my roster and then we can just focus on the changes.
Brilliant.
So it's the similar roster to the last episode, which is a Defenders Web Warriors combo. So the characters are the Immortal Hulk, Amazing Spider-Man, Daredevil, Wolverine, Elektra, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, Wong, Miles Morales, and Ghost Spider. The team tactics cards were Patch Up, Sacrifice, Heroes for Hire, One Below All, Fallback, No Matter the Cost, Exceptional Healing, Mission Objective, All Webbed Up, and Spider Tracker. And then my crises were Gamma Wave, Mayor Fisk, and Deadly Meteors for Skewers, and Montesi Formula, Research Station, and Legacy Virus for Extracts.
So immediately I'm thinking, what's changed? But then I'm like, where's Ancient One?
Yeah, so the audition that we talked about in the last episode,
Yeah.
Elektra very firmly won that audition in the episode. And so Ancient One was dropped. We now have only 3 4s, and Miles Morales was brought in. And the main reason for bringing in Miles was to support that Web Warriors pivot and to have a guy that can steal objectives more effectively so that I can go wider with Defenders or Web Warriors and have someone like Miles who's a bit tanky and can steal. I actually was very close to putting in Black Cat, and in fact, up until Saturday morning, Black Cat was in the roster for Iron Fist, but I played with Iron Fist on one of the pickup games on Friday night, and he was unbelievable. So I was like, well, off the back of that performance, I want Iron Fist more, so I brought back Iron Fist. It always seems to happen for me with Black Cat. I almost bring her, and then I'm like, oh no, let's take someone else that I find more interesting.
I get that. I totally get that because you see a lot of Black Cat even since her changes. She's different to how she used to be. Obviously, the steel is less efficient, but she's so much tankier. So it doesn't need to be any more efficient. She doesn't mind diving on a point and stuff. But as a result, you do see her everywhere. So I completely empathize with you, not like leaning away from her, bringing someone slightly different in. I do worry for you though, because obviously she is excellent. So yeah, I wonder if you'll miss her.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to finding out. So that was the one change in characters. That it sounded like there was a couple of changes in your secures and extracts. Do you want to talk us through those?
Yeah, so this roster really wants to focus on defenders, and particularly I want to be kind of a brawly defenders team, kind of focused around Immortal Hulk. So some of the secures and extracts that I had last time were just too wide. So I've gone really up the middle. So Gamma Wave and Mayor Fisk are the same for my secures, and I've brought in Deadly Meteors, which is a 3-point pay to flip, but it's quite close together. And so I quite like this because characters like the Immortal Hulk and Amazing Spider-Man are quite good at pay to flips, and it's sufficiently slow scoring that if I'm up against, say, a Web Warriors or a Hellfire Club like last week, I'm not worried about them kind of running away with the secures.
Yeah, I get that, especially with the pay to flips. They can't just put a model on there and expect to hold it and stay alive on it. They've got to be able to flip it. If you can get in there late and flip it, then obviously it's still your point. You said Amazing Spider-Man's really good at pay to flips. Talk me through that.
So since his update, so he's a 4/4/3 character defensively. So Mutant Madman requires a pay to flip, which is physical. Deadly Meteors and Spider Portal require a pay to flip, which is energy. And on both, he is 4 and 4. So he's very good at flipping those. But also now, if he rolls a crit in those rolls, he refunds the power. So suddenly he's this super mobile guy who can potentially regenerate his flips power, which is great.
So potentially with the long move as well, he could be running up to the middle, flipping that central Deadly Meteor. He's got 4 dice to chase the crit. If he gets the crit, he can then either jump back or jump onto an extract and hold that. And we all know how tanky Amazing Spider-Man can be with his reroll. So nice. It's like a pseudo sort of Mystique style approach.
Exactly, and that's good for that slow scoring. And then just to round off the changes, I think the only change was that I swapped out the Smash Tactics cards for fullback, and that's again for that pivot for when I'm playing against a wider list and I can't just go up the middle. It's just more tech to help me keep hold of extracts and escape the clutches of steals and whatnot.
Yeah. So if I think back to sort of your experience at the last event with this, I think the crisis changes hopefully are going to really go in your favor because you're no longer gifting those teams that enjoy going wide with a secure and extract that they like.
Yeah.
Because the chances are they don't like any of yours now. Whereas before there was always that 1 in 3 that they might have liked, or I think on your extracts 2 of them were quite wide. So nice. So you're really leaning into those fighty ones, but you could go webs should the crisis dictate that.
Yeah, so the biggest changes are those crises, just narrowing them up nicely.
Exciting. So should we head into the group stages and find out who your round 1 opponent was?
We're not retreating. It's victory or death.
So Archie, you've arrived in Elephant and Castle, turned up to your table. Who is your game 1 opponent and what are they bringing?
So game 1, I'm playing against Chris. Chris with no H was his Longshanks handle.
Nice.
And he was playing Web Warriors. So immediately I'm up against a team that I've played against in my previous event and lost to. So I'm hoping to put into practice what I've learned.
Yeah, well practiced. This couldn't have gone better.
So I win priority, so that's a difference from the last episode, so that's a good start.
Well, we've not practiced for this though, so
No, true. And we draw Mayor Fisk and struggle for the cube.
Oh right, okay. So that's quite feisty. Even though there are 5 extracts on the table, they're sort of doing damage, and unless you've got natural healing factor, it's not really a way to mitigate that.
Yeah, and I think the nice thing about Mayor Fisk is there's 4 points for secures, so it's not quite as swung in the favor of extracts.
Of course.
And the threat level is 17.
Right. Okay. So what do you choose?
So I go with a classic Defenders 17 based off my roster, which is Daredevil, Immortal Hulk, Wolverine, and Wong.
I think this is such a powerful 17. It's like the number 1 threat level that you want because you want to put these 4 models down. Like Immortal Hulk and Wolverine just will do so much work. Daredevil doesn't die.
Yeah.
And Wong keeps them all healthy.
Yeah, and Mayor Fisk is particularly good because both Hulk and Wolverine are immune to stun.
Oh, of course. And they're the 2 that you want on the Mayor Fisks, right? Whereas, the others can go pick up their cubes.
Yeah. And so he brings, it's a very websy list. It's Miles Morales, Spectacular Spider-Man, Ghost Spider, Black Cat, Lizard, and Wong.
Ah, yes. Wong, the honorary web, because they don't have a 2 threat.
Yeah, so it's 6 wide to my 4.
Oh.
So I'm hoping to get priority a lot.
Yeah, and keep it. Absolutely. And it'd be nice if you could smash a character or 2 a turn and still hold priority.
Exactly. So round 1, we kind of both set up reasonably centrally. The cubes are quite narrow and the Mayor Fisk is quite narrow as well. I pass turn 1, I think.
Classic.
Because might as well. And his Lizard comes up and steals my back right cube. So he's very aggressive with his Lizard.
Ballsy, yeah.
And Wolverine is on that side. So I go with Wolverine. I move him up. So not onto the Mayor Fisk. I move him once and attack Lizard and do 3 damage to Lizard. So that's after damage reduction, after defense dice. So that's a pretty good start from Wolverine, getting some power generation, doing a bit of chip damage to Lizard. Daredevil takes my back left, and then Black Cat and Spectacular Spider-Man walk up. Black Cat takes the middle cube, and Spectacular Spider-Man sits on the left-hand side Fisk. So they're quite kind of aggressive on that side. And then on the other side, I think Gwen goes and picks up his back cube, and Wong kind of hangs around passing out power, and Miles picks up his back left cube.
How many cubes does he pick up?
So he's got 4.
4 of them. Did that not tempt you to not passing first round to grab a cube?
So I considered it, but I didn't think he'd be so aggressive with Lizard, to be honest,
Sure.
because I had Wolverine sat there ready to pounce.
Right, of course.
But before the round is over, I think it must have been the penultimate go, I-Hulk walks up. Leaps up, I should say. Punches Spectacular Spider-Man into the ground. Spectacular Spider-Man dazes turn 1. I think I might even get a throw into Black Cat to do some chip damage into her. So it's a great start from Immortal Hulk. And it means that I take the left Fisk. Oh, that's right. I didn't pass round 1. I actually wonged round 1, but just meditated and passed power off. So Wolverine charged into Lizard. So that's why he did so much damage. And then he walked onto the right Fisk. So at the end of round 1, I'm actually up 5-4 because I've got both the Fisks and one of the cubes, whereas he's got the 4 other cubes.
Ah, okay. So actually, not a bad plan, knowing that, like you said, there's 4 points for the fist.
Yeah.
If you can control those by going late and throwing and doing damage, then actually you just need the 1 cube to stay ahead.
Exactly. Fisk is quite good for me because it means that I can just sit on them and score lots of points, and I don't have to worry so much about going behind with the extracts.
Sure.
So then round 2 starts with I-Hulk. And because he's got 2 characters, I-Hulk is happy to go and daze people. And he overachieved. I tell you, this game, he overachieved.
Wow.
He KO'd Spectacular Spider-Man.
Poor Spectacular Spider-Man barely had a go.
Yeah. And dazed both Black Cat and Gwen
Wow.
in 1 round.
So that's just thump, throw, thump, throw.
Yeah. I think I actually used the Daredevil leadership to re-roll some of my dice against Spectacular Spider-Man to make sure that I only did 4 damage to him. Or it might have been against Gwen.
Because you'd over damaged, so you wanted to get fewer hits.
So then I could throw him into one of the others.
Yeah.
And I think because I'd done some damage to Black Cat, she was actually quite susceptible to the throw.
Nice, nice.
So in doing so, I lost priority, but I dazed 3 characters, and it meant that I could pick up a cube with I-Hulk.
He must love the cubes, right? Because of the power it gives him.
Yeah, and also that's the other thing, is that they're taking chip damage. So actually, that's fine by me.
So as a turn 1 play, yeah, it probably helps your attrition game to let them hold a few cubes.
Yeah. So I think Black Cat maybe took 1 or 2 damage from round 1, then took another damage from holding a cube, and so she's only 1 to maybe 2 off dazing. So a couple of throws, it's not that unlikely.
Yeah, there's not much you can do about that.
So that's on that left flank. Wolverine, unfortunately, fails to take out Lizard, and then is thrown off the right Fisk by Miles. So Miles swings across with his cube and his power that he's got from the cube, and Lizard is starting to heal up, which is a bit of a bummer. So that kind of right-hand side is a bit pillow-fisted, and Daredevil ends up having to double move just to deny the Fisk points that Miles would have got. So the big play in that round was I-Hulk going turn 1, and just absolutely murdering 3 characters, and then the rest is a bit pillow-fisted. So the round ends 9-7 to me because I've managed to take one of his cubes, and we're contesting the right Fisk. So I've not got those 2 VPs again, but I've got 4 VPs, 2 for 1 Fisk, 2 for 2 cubes.
Nice. And he's now sitting on three cubes.
Yeah. So it's still quite close, but my attrition is really motoring.
Yeah. And he's lost a character, so that's another character that
Yeah.
can't now score and affect
Yeah.
the game. And it sounds like a few of the characters are nearly there.
Yeah. So his priority now, however, which is, unfortunate. And he goes with Black Cat and he steals off the cube off Immortal Hulk and then runs away. So he actually runs towards my side of the board, away from all my characters, because the Fisks have been steadily moving slightly closer to him. So the furthest she can get is like back towards me. So that's quite a nice play. But then on the right-hand side, Daredevil's been powering up. And you know what happens when Daredevil powers up?
Oh, yes.
He does a big old area attack.
Yeah.
And I think because of the various attacks that have been done, I think his Miles is pretty healthy. Maybe he's taken 2 damage just from holding a cube for 2 turns.
Sure.
His Lizard is 1 off because Wolverine failed to take him out. And his Wong is Wong. He's got some damage.
Yeah.
So I do the big area attack. And it's a big area attack. He dazes Miles. I think I use all the rerolls on Miles just to make sure. He dazes Lizard with 1 health. And then he fluffs against Wong. So I push
Oh.
Wong away. But I've taken out the 2 characters that I really needed or really wanted to take out there, because if those 2 are left to their own devices, they're a real pain.
Aren't you just handing priority back to him again?
Yeah, but I'm thinking he's got priority at the moment, but I'm thinking that if I can daze a bunch of characters, the scoring can add up quite quickly here, because there's 9 VPs on the table, and I'm 9.
You're already 2 ahead.
Exactly. So that's 2 characters, 2 big important characters down, and Black Cat has run away, so there's another character that's not scoring secures. I think Wong then runs away because I think he's holding an extract and he's just trying to keep Wong alive. Wong isn't far off death given the area attack. But I think that's a mistake because it then means that I-Hulk can go and he can KO Gwen. So I think Gwen would have been the better option there just to try and do something. But I-Hulk is then able to KO Gwen. So in that turn, I've dazed 2 characters and taken Gwen off the board. So he's down to 4 characters left. And I think, that's the game there, because I then have the secures and I also have 3 extracts.
So do you close it out that turn?
So it's 16-9 at the end of the turn. So he scores 2 VPs, 1 with Wong and 1 with Black Cat, but Miles and Lizard drop their stuff, and Hulk's holding something at this stage.
I suppose in hindsight, maybe Black Cat stealing and running away is probably not the best move, because you've got the 2-point lead. Her safely securing 1 point is not sufficient for you to be concerned, especially when that turn is used to not stop you from scoring all the other points.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can take the characters out after that, it's almost as if you had priority anyway.
Yeah. So it was going to be tough for Chris at the end of round 2 just because of the way it had gone. But yeah, I agree. I think Black Cat could have staggered, I-Hulk could have staggered, Daredevil maybe, just to try and stop my attrition. Because really, I think actually this game was won by the fact that I drew Mayor Fisk. And so it meant I could just focus on the secures, which the webs don't like to sit on because they take damage from the Fisk, they get stunned, which they hate, and they have to come up and fight my big boys.
Yeah.
Which they also don't.
And because of the cubes as well, they don't have a huge health pools. A lot of them are like 5 health, aren't they? So, holding a cube and then, getting damaged by the Fisk, suddenly Immortal Hulk doesn't even need to do particularly, spiky attacks.
No.
He can reliably finish them off. So, yeah, I'm really pleased that your game plan of going more fighty worked. I know you didn't get to play Mayor Fisk in the practice, but it sounds like whatever you were planning, whatever you were cooking up, it sounds like it did the job, and it's nice for you to get that win against Webs. Well, without further ado, let's move on to round 2. So you've won your first game in the group stage. I'm sure that must mean you're up against someone else who's won their first game in the group stage. Who is it and what they bring in?
So I'm up against Tom Van Anderrooy from Belgium. So I hope that's how you pronounce your name, Tom. I apologize if not.
That's really nice, though, that you got to play one of the Belgians. It's a completely new experience for you, I imagine.
Yeah, it was great. He brought mints, so I had some mints during the game. It was
Oh,
very nice of him.
oh, how lovely.
What was not very nice of him, however, was he was playing Hellfire Club.
Well, no, you've practiced. You practice against Web. You got your win. You practice against Hellfire. Fingers crossed
True.
that'll set you up.
So which I haven't practiced, is I won priority. So that's 2 in a row. So it's such a swing, this 50-50 thing. And we draw Deadly Meteors on my side and Scrolls on his. So weirdly, I've not had experience with Deadly Meteors, but I have had experience with Scrolls because it used
Yes,
to be in my roster.
but it wasn't it more of like, oh, what not to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Deadly Meat is an interesting one because I imagine out of the 3 secures that you're bringing, that's probably the one that the Hellfire Club prefer, just because there's 3 of them rather than 2 of them.
Yes, probably. The only thing is they're pay to flips, which I don't think Hellfire Club like a huge amount.
Sure, but they can still benefit from their leadership, right, when they're contesting. But yes, you're right. They can't just throw you off a point and expect to win that secure.
Yeah. We're picking at 17 threat. Tom chooses 17. So I go with Web Warriors. So we've got Amazing Spider-Man, we've got Gwen, Miles Morales, Elektra, and Wong.
Oh, nice. So going with Web Warriors rather than Defenders. Your experience on Scrolls, is that playing on your mind? What's the thinking there?
So my thinking is that the Scrolls is problematic, and I have some ideas for how to make it less problematic with some of these characters, which I'll get into. Also, I really want to take ASM because, as we said in the roster building part, he's great on pay to flips.
Absolutely.
And I think that 17 that I played last game was great, but I think on this map with this Crisis combo, it probably wouldn't have been quite as effective. And having played against Hellfire Club before, I was expecting them to go quite wide, so I wanted to go toe-to-toe.
Sure.
However, Tom surprises me and he goes, Emma Frost, Bill, new Ultron, and very excitingly, new Doc Ock.
Ooh.
So he splashes Doc Ock into Hellfire Club.
Interesting.
So he goes 4 wide, which is quite an unusual thing to see with Hellfire Club.
Yeah. I wonder if he's thinking, well, there's 4 extracts, so I don't need any more than 4, and there's only 3 secures, so let's go taller.
Yeah, and he's actually got great characters for this pay to flip because Bill, Doc Ock, and Ultron all have 4 energy, and Doc Ock has the same mechanic as ASM, where if he rolls crits, he gets his power back. So I decide to go with ASM's leadership, and the reason for that is because of the way that he's set up is he's got 3 medium movers on medium bases. So that allows him to move. Say he has the perfect setup with Bill, he can go flip the first Origin Bomb, second Origin Bomb, third Origin Bomb, all in one go.
Wow.
But when they're slowed, they can only make it between 2 with 2 moves. So I figured that that's probably a better thing to do.
That's a really good spot. I don't think it would have even crossed my mind about their mobility on the Meteors. Great spot.
Yeah. Round 1 goes, and I do a ballsy play. Miles goes and steals the enemy scroll.
Ooh. You've seen this before. Norbert did this to you.
Yeah, this is what I'm thinking. Thanks, Norbert. And the way the terrain is laid out, I can kind of block him. So even if he fails the push, he doesn't get pushed directly towards. He kind of gets pushed more sideways.
Ah,
So I position it in such a way that he can do that. He ends up getting attacked later in the round, but survives because I've brought fallback.
nice.
So he takes maybe 2 damage, and then he gets attacked again. I think he's then 1 off, and he falls back.
Great. That 2 damage then is perfect
Yeah.
to be able to pay for fallback.
Exactly. So I think this is his Ultron attacks him. He attacks with the drones, does 2 damage. Attacks with Ultron, does 2 damage, and so he falls back. So he's in relative safety. Meanwhile, the ninjas take my home scroll.
Great.
I'm pretty sure they get pushed, but then they just move back again because a medium base allows them to grab it and have 2 moves. And Elektra takes the right one. Bill picks up the left scroll and flips that left-hand bomb, but he gets pushed by the scroll. So he flips the bomb, picks up the scroll, gets pushed. So I push him way off to the left to try and keep him out of it. And my Wong flips the right bomb, and Emma flips the middle bomb. And when Emma walked up to the middle bomb, Miles used his remaining 2 power to spider tracker so that he's even safer.
Oh, great.
So that by the time I'm getting to round 2, he's well within my kind of home territory. Yes, he's taken 4 damage, but he's pretty safe. So this was all going really well, and ASM is my secret weapon here. So the idea of going with ASM last is he can long move to the middle. So I long move to the middle thing. I then roll my 4 dice and get 3 blanks and a skull. So he takes the damage and fails to flip it. But we're all good because I can then attack the drones who have 1 or maybe 2 dice defense and 3 health, and I do 2 damage, which is really annoying because all I needed, if I could have got 3 power off of this attack, I could have web swung to the left scroll and flipped that because Bill was off it, and I'd have had a better chance of doing it. So my super smart plan to go with ASM and really kind of swing that last turn doesn't work out, which I'm gutted by.
I think it's so unlucky. I think it's because, the game plan is totally sound. The decision making is totally sound. I hate blaming dice, but the dice will let you down a little bit there.
I think in hindsight, maybe I could have just double moved to the left one, but because the way the dice rolled, I wouldn't have even got that one. So
Yeah.
it wasn't even close. But at the end of that turn, I have 3 scrolls and I have 1 bomb, and he has 2 bombs, 1 scroll.
Okay.
So it's 4-3 to me. I was hoping for quite a big swing to go maybe 6-1 up or even 5-2 up, but I'm still ahead and I've got the extracts, which is really what I wanted.
But is ASM in a bit of a tough situation where he is? He's a bit exposed, which if he'd managed to flip the bomb, he could have got out of there.
He is, but I'm not too worried about him because he's pretty tanky and witty banter is quite online and he's not holding an extract. So there's quite a few things that are mitigating. So round 2 starts and Mars gets dazed by Doc Ock, which is not really that surprising. He's only got 1 health left. And I kind of thought that was going to happen. He had priority. There's not much I can do about it. But that was one thing. He played his Doc Ock card, which is the This Is Our Day card, which means that if he drops objectives, he can place them within range 3.
Oh.
And he gets to choose where they get placed.
Range 3 is so long as well.
Yeah. And he said that this is one of the big reasons why Doc Ock is in the list. So it's quite an interesting one, and it's quite a good counter to someone like Mars who can steal. But anyway, Mars is not relevant for this turn because he gets dazed by Doc Ock. I then go with Elektra, and essentially the only reason I'm going with Elektra is because the ninjas run to a corner. So they're holding a scroll, and I basically want to make it so one of his 4-threat characters, or even 5-threat characters, have to chase them down.
Yeah, and then you just got a point in the corner while, the rest of your team is the same threat as his in the middle.
Exactly. So Elektra doesn't really do a huge amount. Ultron then dazes Wong. I'm not too worried about that.
No.
Gwen starts kind of pulling some characters around. Bill starts walking back into the middle. He doesn't do a huge amount. But the big play of the turn was Emma mugs ASM.
Oh, no. Oh, we've been here before.
It happened to me before. I couldn't believe it.
The deja vu.
So I think she does her builder into her spender.
Right.
And she gets the hit wild trigger even through the witty banter because he rolls like 2 wilds and 2 hits.
So, yeah, there's nothing you can do.
And so he moves ASM into range of the spender and then spenders into him and takes him out. And I was again planning on going with ASM last so that he could flip points. So this is so frustrating. And it means that there's a bit of a flip in the score. He then goes 8-6 up.
So he manages to pick up 5 points. Is that so he's taken Miles's scroll?
Yeah.
And then has he got an additional scroll?
I think he has all 3 of the bombs.
Oh.
And he's already got his own old scroll.
Yeah. So he's 2 scrolls, 3 bombs.
Yeah.
Netting him 5 points, but then you're down to 2 scrolls.
Yeah.
That's it.
So I was thinking that ASM can go last and start flipping things, but ASM gets dazed, which is a bit of a shame, but it does mean I have priority. So round 3 starts and ASM all webs up.
Nice.
So ASM has loads of power now because he's been rolling loads of dice, he's taking loads of damage. So ASM all webs up and he dazes Bill.
Great.
So a fully healthy Bill gets dazed, which is a pretty impressive thing to do.
That's really good because it's not easy.
And also it means he can take Bill's scroll, and because of the spender that I did with him, he gets a medium move and then flips that left bomb.
Perfect.
So ASM's had an excellent all-webbed up turn. However, then Emma steps up and KOs ASM. And I think you were watching at this stage.
Yeah, it was.
He's fully healthy. He's got witty banter online. I think the same thing happens again. She does one builder into one spender with witty banter, with all the rerolls, and KOs ASM,
Oh gosh.
which is rough because that's my leader and that's my big guy that can really like swing these origin bombs. So that is painful for me. But on the right hand side, I've been able to slow Ultron. I think it was through the leadership before ASM went down, and it means that Gwen can double tap him with all webbed up and dazes Ultron. So that's quite a big moment for Gwen. I think he'd maybe taken 1 damage already, but Gwen has like 6 dice into 9 dice. I get pretty lucky to get it, but she does really well, and that's big. And then Miles also dazes Doc Ock. So in that turn, I've lost my leader, but all of his characters bar Emma are dazed. And it allows me to kind of have a bit free reign on the board, getting scrolls back and flipping points. And that turn swings back in my favor, so I'm 12-9 up.
Wow, he's only gotten 1 point there, even though he's taken ASM out.
Yeah, because Emma picks up ASM's scroll, but everyone else gets dazed, and he never got a chance to take the left bomb, and I had like Elektra and Wong and Miles being able to flip stuff.
Wow. Oh, well done. Well done for recovering there.
So this was a really good all webbed up turn as well, because I got loads of people slowed, and with the leadership managed to get everyone slowed at some point. So it really meant that I could really like maximize the webs go. And Miles now has a scroll and gets attacked by Ultron and survives on 1 health. So with his rerolls, he manages to survive. Maybe I'd sacrifice. I'm not even sure I needed it, but I think he does really well. And so he then runs away. So he moves to quite far back because I'm thinking I just need 4 VPs this turn. So if I can keep 3 scrolls safe, so I've got 1 with the ninjas, 1 with Miles, which are pretty safe, and then all I need is 1 origin bomb, and I win the game. So that's my plan here.
And he's still 7 points off, so actually he can't win it this turn.
Yeah, exactly. Gwen then gets dazed. I mean, she's pretty squishy, and she was in a bit of peril.
She's going to be exposed as well when you go early with those other characters to get them out and dodge.
Yeah.
So she's going to be exposed.
Yeah, and I think this was then an error of mine because I think I pass. I think I'm now in a position where I can pass because I've had characters dazed and ASM was off the board, so we were evens.
Are you thinking about wanting to flip the bombs last?
So I'm thinking trying to flip the bombs, and I'm basically backing Elektra to survive.
Right.
Because Elektra has full 6 health, and she's 4/3/3, and she's got stealth. Bill moves up and does 4 damage to Elektra off his. It might have been that, that 6 dice Stormbreaker one.
Right.
And then throws a size 1 piece of terrain at her, and she doesn't block anything off 4 dice. And Elektra goes down with one of my scrolls. So if Elektra survives that, I'm then getting those 3 VPs from the scrolls, and she just needs to get one of the origin bombs. And because of the way that the turns had gone, I think Emma might have been the only character that needed to go.
And she can't pick up another scroll, can she?
No. I mean, I would have had all the scrolls. And I think the way the origin bombs were laid out, he wouldn't have been able to get them all. It then means that Emma moves onto the left scroll, which is her closest one. She's slow as well, so she has to move twice to get onto this. And she flips it.
Of course
she rolls, what, three dice? Is that right, Emma?
3 energy, but this one's physical, isn't it?
No,
so it's only like
energy,
2 dice.
Energy.
Oh, is it energy? She's got 3 energy.
Yeah, so she gets her 3 energy, which ends the round at 15-13. So I'm 1 point away from winning. But at this stage, I'm in a real uphill struggle because...
Yeah, you needed to do it that round, didn't you?
I was really wanting to do it that round because now he's got all 4 of his characters. Yes, some of them have been dazed, but that doesn't matter. But he's got board control. I must have priority at this stage. And Elektra goes and does her spender and fluffs.
That's the impale.
Yeah. So she does her 5 dice mystic attack, which allows her to place. And then she does her spender. And I think off those 2 attacks, she fails to take anyone out. And that means Elektra is right in the middle. Yeah, she can flip the bomb, But she's then got Bill and Emma and Doc Ock right up there. So that's a big miss because I just needed to take a character out. It didn't really matter who, just take someone off the board.
I think that's fair. Because I imagine Age of Ultron is online, so
Yeah.
he's not target. Bill is not easy to take out because of his damage reduction. Doc Ock feels like the best option there.
Yeah, so I think that was pretty unlucky. What was then more unlucky was Gwen got KO'd by the Ultron drones.
Oh, no.
They got 2 4-dice attacks into Gwen and KO'd her, and then Ultron went and KO'd Wong.
All you've got is Elektra at this point.
No, I've got Miles as well, but he's away. But so he then has to run back into the middle. So I think he triple moves. So he does his move, and then swing, and he flips the middle point. So heroically survives and flips the middle point. But unfortunately, it means the game is at 17 all. So I still can't clinch it.
And now Miles is right in the middle of the table. Elektra's right in the middle of the table.
Yeah, at this stage as well, Elektra gets KO'd because she's got 3, which means also that the ninjas drop the scroll. So had Elektra survived, I would have won that turn because I'd have got an extra VP from the ninjas. So all I've got left at the top of round 6 is Miles. And at this point, I'm thinking he's going to have to do something pretty special. He does all right. I think he takes one of them out, but ultimately he gets KO'd and the game ends 17-17.
Oh, with KO.
With all my characters off the board.
Yeah, because of course the game ends immediately, doesn't it? So the score stays the same, but obviously because you've been tabled.
Yeah, I lose on a technicality.
On a technicality. It sounds like you had some really good early turns. 1 or 2 misplays / compounded by some bad luck meant that your points lead, you ran out of steam.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the game was over at the end of round 4.
Is that when you were 15-13 up?
That was when I was 15-13 up. I needed to win that turn, otherwise my characters were out of position and vulnerable. I think, to be honest, this was a great game. I really enjoyed this game because it felt really close all the way through. But the big thing was ASM really underperformed. Turn 1, he failed to do any flips, which is pretty unlucky with a character like ASM. And then round 2 and round 3, he gets dazed, then KO'd by Emma.
Yeah.
And I think that is similarly very unlucky because he's not as good against Mystic, but he still has all his rerolls and he still has witty banter.
Yeah. He's what? Is he 6th and 7?
6 and 6.
6 and 6. Yeah, I think it's not probable, but it's certainly more possible because with the throw, if the builder pops off to the point where you then get enough power to do the spender and the move to make sure they're in range, if they're only in range 4 initially, means that you then get the throw. So between the 2 attacks, you only need the 5 damage to then finish them off with the throw.
I think that was the thing. I think what was unlucky was that on both his builders, he got the trigger and the big damage spike, which gave him the power to do his spender. But ASM also didn't roll much defense. So it was one of those where it was a real shame because I felt like I played this game well. There were a few mistakes in there, but I felt like I played this well. But I think that kind of sequence of events really set me back.
Yeah. I think if you had your time again, I don't think you do too much differently. Certainly not in that turn 1. I think turn 1 sounded really good, but it made you vulnerable when it didn't come off.
Yeah, exactly. And I really liked this list, but it's the classic story of Web Warriors. Web Warriors need to win quick or they die. So that's the kind of risk you run. Maybe in hindsight, Miles would have been better just to try and boost my defenses a little bit more because it was a bit more of a melee. Because the ASM leadership came in a little bit, but not as much as maybe Miles would have done.
Well, you'd have had Miles's all the way to the end as well because he was the last man standing.
Exactly.
But anyway, it sounds like it was on a knife edge, and sadly you fell the wrong side of that knife edge. But you're 1-1. Hope is not lost. You've got 2 more games today. Let's crack on and have a look at game 3. So Archie, you're 1 for 1. Game 3 of the group stage. Who are you up against and what are they bringing?
So I'm up against Tom Dalton, who is one of the Irish contingent.
Oh, excellent. A real nations event for you.
Yeah, I think Chris was a Spaniard in round 1. We played a Belgian Tom in round 2, and now we're up against an Irishman. So,
oh wow,
good day.
Feels like Eurovision.
Yeah. So I rock up and I lose priority.
Oh, nice, good. That you're well practiced there.
I'm back in my comfort zone, and we draw Riot Sparks and Research Station. So If you remember to last week, round 3, I played, or last episode, round 3, I played Darren at this exact crisis combination, and Tom was similarly playing Web Warriors.
Oh, what did he bring to the table? Does he follow in Darren's footsteps?
So I'm thinking to myself, because I get to choose the threat value, I'm thinking what happened against Darren was Gwen popped off. And I was like, I back the dice not to do that again.
Or you?
I'm tempting it. And so what I go with is I go with 15 threat. I go Daredevil, Elektra, and Immortal Hulk.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So the idea being is I dominate the researcher, and I just then need to take one more, and then his characters all die, and I win the game. That's the plan.
But there's 4 riot sparks on the table. Is that not a worry?
Yeah, I'm thinking basically I can take, because the ninjas can hold the research station.
Oh, of course, it's an extract.
Yeah, so essentially I have 4 scoring characters.
Excellent.
So that's why Elektra comes in. And also I was thinking about 17 bringing Wong along, but I didn't want him going 6 wide because that really got me last time against Darren. So he brings Miles, Gwen, Black Cat, Bill, and Wong.
Ooh, so he still goes 5 wide.
Yeah, still goes 5 wide at 15, which I was expecting because Webs can do that really easily. But I'm thinking, yeah, if I can keep hold of this researcher, then I'm all good. Round 1 kicks off. Daredevil sits back, Elektra goes right, and the ninjas go up onto the midline.
Excellent.
He uses Wong to do R&D, which I forgot about when I moved Elektra up, which was a rookie error, because then it meant that Miles moved, swung onto the point, and punched Elektra. And he did 5 damage to Elektra off the bat with a throw.
Is she 6 health, 5
She's
health?
6 health. She's 6 health.
Oh, okay. She's still standing, but she's no longer on the point.
So she's still standing. So Miles has that right point. Bill walks onto the midline. Immortal Hulk follows up and throws Bill off. And then Black Cat, because she's also got 2 power from Wong, staggers Immortal Hulk. So he actually ignores the researcher and goes for the stagger option with Black Cat rather than contesting. So at the end of round 1, it's 3-all. I have my home riot sparks and the researcher, and he has the other 3 riot sparks.
Who's sat on your home?
Daredevil.
Daredevil, right, okay.
So I'm like, okay, that's gone better than my game against Darren.
Yeah, you scored some points.
At this stage, I was 5-0 down. Elektra then starts, because Hulk is staggered. I'm like, I'm not going to go with him first. And she dazes Miles.
Brilliant.
So this is one of the reasons I bring Elektra along, because Elektra has this range 3 mystic attack, and Miles doesn't like mystic. So she does some damage with it, and then it gets her close, and the ninjas are quite close. So she then does her spender. She's had taken so much damage. So she does her spender round 2, which finishes Miles off.
Does her spender get additional dice if the ninjas are nearby?
So the spender is an 8 dice attack. If the ninjas are within range 2 of the target, it's a 10 dice attack. And crucially, your opponent doesn't count crits, nor do they explode them.
Wow, okay.
So it makes it quite an effective way. I mean, yes, he has a bunch of rerolls. Basically, there are only 2 sides which are successes to him. So that's a great start. And she's now on the point. Bill then walks up and lobs Immortal Hulk at Daredevil. And Daredevil survives just. He survives on 1.
Oh, yeah, because he's only 5 health, isn't he? So he could be one shot by that.
Yeah, so Immortal Hulk is now staggered and thrown out the middle. And this is classic kind of Bill Black Cat combo, because in the end, Immortal Hulk ends up having to walk back up and just throw Bill off the point. At which time, Gwen then pulls Immortal Hulk off the researcher.
Right. Could you not have gone with Daredevil first to bait out the Gwen move?
Yeah, I think I do go with Daredevil first, but he doesn't do a huge amount. But basically, because I've only got 3 characters to his 5, he's always able to get that last activation.
But either way, he can definitely go with Gwen last, and therefore he's always got that option to pull whoever's lands on the researcher off the point.
Exactly. So I think all he does is move Gwen, pull, move back onto a point. So at the end of the round, it's 5-all. Because we've both now got 2 right spots. He doesn't actually move anyone onto the middle, because he doesn't want anyone close to Immortal Hulk.
He just doesn't want you scoring it either.
The last turn, Immortal Hulk has also been staggered again by Black Cat.
Oh.
Black Cat is just generating an extra power with Wong. So Immortal Hulk is staggered again. Elektra gets dazed by Miles. Elektra's actually been healing up quite nicely because of the riot sparks.
Of course, yeah, she got plenty of power from when she was taken out. So
Exactly. But she still gets dazed by Miles.
no,
which is a bit of a scunner. And Immortal Hulk I think Immortal Hulk is still in that position where all his characters are quite far away. So Immortal Hulk's not able to do a huge amount. So Immortal Hulk kind of jumps and maybe does like one attack, but kind of fails to do the damage. I think his dice don't get rolling. So it means he ends up getting staggered and thrown again because he keeps getting staggered. So he's basically getting one attack off a turn. He does an attack, which doesn't work, and then Bill and Black Cat combo stagger and throw him away again. And Daredevil then gets dazed by Gwen
oh no,
because he's only got like one health left.
yeah. So she doesn't need to get much through, but she's only throwing 4 dice, and he's counting
Yeah.
blanks.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a shame because if he'd survived, he could have walked up and hit her back. He was doing nice stuff. So at the end of that round, I don't score anything. He still only scores 2 VPs.
Just those 2 riot sparks he's got, but you're not getting anything.
Yeah, so it's 5-7. So I'm 7-5 down. So now Daredevil has a big opportunity because he's had to move his Black Cat and his Gwen into positions in order to do what they wanted to do last round. Daredevil has a perfect spender opportunity.
Right.
He has to move, but he moves. He spenders into Gwen and Black Cat with the rerolls.
Nice.
And fails to take either of them out.
Oh no.
He has the power to do that extra attack, but
It's not worth it at that point because you power them up, you don't take them out, and you potentially take damage yourself.
exactly. And that is huge. Tom had been playing it really cagey, a really nice, like webs running around the outside, hadn't given me the opportunity to have many attacks. And this was that big opportunity to have that attack. So I really needed that to go off. And if I'd taken them both out, then it's 3v3 and I'm feeling good. And it also means that Daredevil is in a bit of no man's land.
Yep. On his injured side.
Yeah. So he's not scoring any points. That's a huge moment because then Elektra on her right survives against Miles, but then fails to take Miles out. I think Miles has 1 health left.
And he's still... Oh, no, he was dazed. So they're both injured, though, at least.
Yeah. And then Gwen pulls Elektra off. Immortal Hulk, similarly, because now Gwen's got loads of power, Immortal Hulk throws Bill off. Again, loads of people are away from Immortal Hulk, but he then just gets pulled around. So Gwen now has loads of power to pull people off points. So it's starting to spiral away from me. And at the end of that round, it's 12-5 to Tom. So I still haven't scored anything just because of the way that my characters are positioned.
So he's got the researcher at this point. Imagine Bill
Yeah,
sat on it.
yeah. I think Bill goes and sits on the research. No, sorry, Gwen goes and sits on the research.
Right, okay. And then, yeah, he's now got the riot sparks. And yours, I mean, I don't know where your points are coming from because he'll always have that last activation to pull whoever it is off the researcher.
And yeah, so at this point, I'm really struggling. Elektra goes and takes out Miles, only just, even though it's a 5 dice mystic into his 3 mystic defense without the rerolls, and he's only got 1 health left. I think I actually double tap him with the ninjas, don't do it, then just get him with an Elektra, and then Elektra fails to take out Gwen. And she's then stuck in no man's land. At this point, I'm like, I've just got to take characters off the board. I've got to take activations away. And Immortal Hulk is again like staggered and thrown. He gets staggered and thrown almost every turn. I just don't know what to do against it. And yeah, it just really spiraled. And in the end, Gwen survives and pulls people around, and it's 16-5 to Tom.
Oh, so after those first 2 turns where you just sort of cling on to it, he's got you sort of right where he wants you. For you to take those activations away from him, for you to fight him, you risk getting yourself out of position, which then he then runs around and takes all those points that you've just conceded.
Yeah, so I think hindsight's a wonderful thing. And I actually think because Darren mugged me off so badly in that last game, because he really out-attritioned me in this almost identical kind of game in last episode, I'm thinking at the start of the game, okay, that was an anomaly and my attrition game should still work in this way. But I think the problem is there were 4 points for the riot spots and only 2 for the researcher, which is the one I wanted. So I really needed my attrition game to work well. And I actually think, in hindsight, I should have been more aggressive with Immortal Hulk. in that turn 1, turn 2. So basically, at the start of round 1, I double moved and threw just to get that VP. Whereas in hindsight, I should have moved, hopped, and then punched Bill properly.
And then if you'd gotten power from that, then you can throw.
Yeah, I think that would have been the better option, because that way I'm getting that attrition game rolling. And particularly the Bill Black Cat combo, completely new to Immortal Hulk.
It sounds like Immortal Hulk never rolled dice this game.
He basically was doing max 1 attack a turn, and actually normally he was just throwing someone, because he had to hop, move, throw, or double move and throw. So it was really nicely played by Tom. Like, it was really close for those first 3 rounds. And I think if a few dice rolls had gone the other way, Elektra, if she'd managed to take out Miles that turn earlier, that takes away the leadership. If Daredevil takes out Gwen or Black Cat, or ideally both, that would have been huge. But it just didn't quite happen. And because of that, it meant the Web Warriors could do all their stuff, auto stagger, easy throws, auto pulling people off points. So it was a really Webs game.
A real lesson in webs. It sounds like the game that Darren expected to play. Obviously,
Yeah.
his dice popped off, which meant that he was able to do more damage than you anticipated him to do. But it sounds like Tom just played the game that Darren would have been expecting to play, and it does. It sounds like potentially by going attrition-y on something that is so wide like Riot Sparks, you lack the ability to manage that control that they have. You almost need to fight fire with fire in that situation, and maybe going slightly wider to match their activations might have been the better option.
In hindsight, I think maybe I should have gone with the ASM-led webs.
Yeah.
Because I'm not too worried about the defensive rerolls, because the webs don't generally do loads of damage, and webs hate the ASM leadership because they get slowed.
Yeah, they hate being slow, don't they? And that particular team as well, with Black Cat and Gwen both moving long.
Bill.
Bill, yeah. He's a medium move.
Medium move.
Oh, yes.
So I think that's what kind of went through my head at the start of the game. I think part of the issue was I was like, I'm here for playing Immortal Hulk, and if we'd drawn any of my other extracts, I think I would have gone webs. But I think because I was tricked by Researcher.
Yeah, tempted. Fair. Well, another lesson in webs.
Exactly.
Sadly, another loss. But you've got one more game in the group stage to redeem yourself. Should we go take a look? So, final game of day 1. I imagine on 1 win and 2 losses. Where are you sitting in the group? Sort of lower, middle?
I think I might be 4th.
Okay.
This game, I'm pushing for that shield position. Is that right? No, the plate, sorry. The middle tier.
The plate, yeah. So if you win this, good chance that you go into plate. You lose this, you win the shield.
Exactly.
So, yeah, here's your redemption arc. Come on.
Yeah.
Who's your opponent and what are they bringing?
So I'm up against AJ Backhouse, who is a local guy. So I've actually only played him like once or twice before, but he's one of the Londoners. He's on our scene. Fantastic models, kind of similar style to mine with the comic booky art.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about this more either at the end or in part 2, but the hobby on show was excellent, but some real standouts were yourself, but also AJ.
Yeah.
Fantastic paint jobs. If I remember rightly as well, he was sitting pretty at top of your group as well.
So I think the way the group had worked out, because I'd played obviously 3 games already, there were only 2 players I could have played against. And that was a similar situation for someone else. So I actually ended up playing AJ because I was the highest ranked that hadn't played AJ yet. But AJ was sitting top of the group at 3-0.
Oh, so you're on the back of 2 losses. And you've now got to face someone on 3 wins.
Yeah.
Whoever wrote the format,
I know. Fire him. Get rid. But he rocks up with his Criminal Syndicate / Brotherhood roster. So he's running a combination between Kingpin Criminals and Mystique.
Really interesting.
Which is quite an interesting one that he's playing with. So it's quite similar kind of game style to Hellfire Club and Web Warriors, but his own twist on it. I win priority, and we pull Gamma Waves, which is my secure,
nice,
and Legacy Virus, which is his extract. So it's 2 of mine, actually, and they're quite slow-scoring ones.
Oh, right. So you've given yourself the best chance against the best player in the group. Nice.
And we go 19 threat.
Brilliant. Yep.
So I go with Daredevil, Amazing Spider-Man, Luke Cage, and Immortal Hulk.
Okay.
The idea being that I'm creating a bubble where my dudes are very hard to kill with like witty banter and just being quite tanky generally, and also very good at protecting Immortal Hulk, so that he's not getting staggered like in the last game.
Yeah, you've learned from that, and you've brought a bodyguard.
Yeah. And he goes with Kingpin, so it's Kingpin Criminals, Rhino, Black Cat. It's my third game against Black Cat. I love her. It's great.
Listeners, you can't see Archie's face, but he's clearly being sarcastic.
Toad and OG Hulk.
Oh, right. Okay, nice.
So it's actually quite a brawly Kingpin Criminals, which I guess is not overly surprising.
You've got to be worried about Toad in that situation as well, getting all those deadly legacy viruses and popping off.
Yeah, absolutely. AJ's done a fantastic Hulk kind of 3D print, which makes him look like a gangster.
Oh, nice. So he's a criminal.
Apparently, Hulk goes through a criminal phase, and so this is that version.
I remember seeing he's in like a 30s pinstripe suit, and he's got like a Tommy gun. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's sick. But we're not here for the hobby, we're here for the serious gaming.
Sorry, yeah, back to the dice.
So part of the reason I bring ASM is so that I can grab the middle virus and run to safety. So round one, that's exactly what I do with priority. I grab the central one and sit back on the back gamma. Daredevil takes the left and Toad takes the right. So I'm up 2-1 on the viruses. Immortal Hulk moves into the middle and has a go at Kingpin, but doesn't do a huge amount. And then he gets thrown off by Hulk for the last activation. But the way I've positioned my models and the terrain is set up means that he can't throw him into one of my characters.
Nice, good, because that, no one likes that, do they?
Exactly. The round ends 3-all. So he's got 2 gammas, I've got 1, and I've got 2 virus, and he's got 1.
Right, so relatively slow scoring as well,
Yeah.
but even.
Exactly. So Immortal Hulk then kicks off round 2 and has a go at Kingpin. So he's very cleverly positioned. So basically, his Hulk is closest to my Immortal Hulk. He then has Kingpin, and behind Kingpin he has Rhino. So he's got this little like straight line. But what's really smart is if I attack Hulk and throw him, I can't throw him into Rhino. I can only throw him into Kingpin, and Kingpin doesn't take collision damage from characters. So it means that I'm not getting that maximum effect. So instead, what I decide to do is I decide to go for Kingpin. Unfortunately, Immortal Hulk does terribly. I think he maybe does 1 damage to Kingpin off his 2 attacks and doesn't get either of the throws off.
I'm worried that the moral of this event is going to be that Immortal Hulk doesn't come out for a while. I feel like it's a not a broken record, but certainly something on repeat. Immortal Hulk attacks, doesn't do too much.
Yeah, it was savage because I was thinking, okay, I can take out Kingpin here. I can keep priority and I can take out Daze's leader. And obviously the whole shtick with Kingpin criminals is when they're healthy, they count for 2 on the objectives. And so then he goes back and Luke tries to protect Immortal Hulk from basically being staggered by Hulk and Black Cat. And he successfully does this, but in the end gets dazed that round. So Luke's taken a bit of a beating, but at least Immortal Hulk is unstaggered. Daredevil just kind of runs back to my home gamma. His Rhino walks onto my back gamma, and ASM has a go into Rhino, but can't take him off. And I think actually the ordering is slightly the opposite, is that Rhino then robs ASM and throws him off.
Okay.
So that means that he is scoring the back point, because despite the fact that Daredevil and Rhino are both on it, the Kingpin leadership gives him the advantage.
Yeah. Oh, that's so good in Gamma, because that's 2 points.
Yeah. So at the end of that round, even though we haven't had many dazes, I think the only character that got dazed was Luke. It's 9-4 to AJ.
Quite the swing.
So I've scored only 1 point from 1 virus, which I'm holding with Daredevil, and he gets pretty much all the rest. But it's okay, because I've still got priority at the top of round 3. And Immortal Hulk, he's got another go.
He's not staggered. That's new.
He's not staggered, which is great. And he whiffs again.
Oh, no.
So I think this time I go for Rhino, because I'm trying to take off that character that's really attacked the back point. And also Rhino's a size 4 throw that I can lob into, say, Hulk.
Yes.
And that's pretty tasty. But yeah, I don't get the throw off in either of my attacks again. I think I might just have to throw him once and just get him away.
Oh, no.
And because of that, Rhino survives and dazes Daredevil.
Because I imagine you've probably given him some power. He stampedes in and...
Yeah, I think he stampedes in, he throws a terrain feature at Daredevil, which he doesn't like, and then he attacks him. And it would have been nice because Daredevil could have then clapped back. But I think even if I'd clapped back, the odds of me killing him would have been really low because I did so little damage with Immortal Hulk. So that's quite a big deal because then Daredevil, of course, drops his virus, and I think Rhino picks it up. So Rhino now has 2 of the viruses. Luke Cage gets so close. He's one-off dazing Kingpin, who then proceeds to stagger I-Hulk because he's got that spender now. He's got loads of power.
Yeah.
And that spender's class. So he's got, within that list, he's got 3 staggers. He's got 2 auto staggers, one with Black Cat, one with Kingpin. And then he's got a potential stagger, a very high potential stagger with his Hulk. Because he'd thrown Luke away, so it meant Luke wasn't in bodyguard range or too dangerous to ignore range. So that's pretty tough. ASM gets so close to bringing it back in this turn for me because he dazes Kingpin, but crucially he gets his momentum off, and so he momentums into Black Cat, who is sitting on that central point healthy. So it's 3 damage coming into Black Cat, who's 2 health away. She gets 2 blocks off 3 dice on her defense, and it means that she survives. ASM is in the middle. Both characters are healthy, but again the Kingpin leadership means that she's scoring the middle. So at the end of the round, it's 15-5 to AJ. So I'm in a bit of a sticky situation here.
When the crisis came out, I was like, does Kingpin really like this? There's only 3 points. But actually, it doesn't matter that there's only 3 points because he can still get the advantage on you with fewer characters. And that's a point then you're not scoring.
Yeah, and my attrition was not working. I think basically that I-Hulk was my eggs in basket, and he needed to do more than he did in these first 3 rounds. He then, just to really like rub it in, he all according to plan. So I'm ready to have big priority, and
Yeah.
he steals priority, which allows Hulk to throw Daredevil away because AJ is terrified of his area attack. But Daredevil survives, which is huge. I-Hulk has now got a decent amount of power, so he gamma bursts his spender into Rhino, who annoyingly survives but gets thrown into Black Cat, who then dazes.
Nice.
So Black Cat's only got 1 health left at this stage. So it's not a great turn from Immortal Hulk, but it's better. He's actually dazed someone, which is, all right. And I think he's also sat on the point. AJ then goes with Toad and runs away into the corner because all he needs to do is score 1 VP and he wins. And he's holding a thing.
There's literally no way you can, unless you can take Toad out and stop him scoring any point.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how many you score.
Exactly. Kingpin proceeds to do not very much, but he throws Luke away, which puts Luke a little bit in no man's land. But Daredevil walks in, does his big area attack, and he KOs Rhino. He does a decent chunk of damage to Hulk, but importantly pushes Hulk off the point and also pushes Kingpin off the points. So at the moment, he's got none of the gammas now.
Just got 1 point on Toad.
Well, no. So he's got 1 point with Hulk as well.
Ah, of course.
ASM, I didn't realize this. ASM chases Toad down because he's a long mover with a swing and is able to hack him and dazes him.
Oh, well played, ASM.
So ASM comes in and I score in that round. I get 11 points, but unfortunately, Hulk is holding the extract, so he gets to 16.
Oh, no.
So it ends up being 11. And I was so excited when ASM dazed Toad because I thought that means it goes another round. And at 15-11, he's got loads of characters dazed.
And you're sat with all but 1 extract, so actually it's on him to then get those off you. And he's used his steals, he's lost Rhino. Yeah, it's much harder for him to do so.
Exactly. But unfortunately, Hulk is not taking enough damage.
He's got you in that position where you got 1 activation left. You either try and take out Hulk or you try and take out Toad. And sadly, you can't do both. I think it's quite heroic from ASM. With great power comes great responsibility, and he shouldered that well.
It's great. It's where actually Toads running into a corner are not safe because ASM has a big or a medium base, a long move, and then a swing. And that swing gives him extra dice. So then suddenly he's got a 7 dice attack. And I think Toad had taken a little bit of damage at this stage because of the gammas.
And he's got no defensive tech. He just got runaway tech.
Yeah.
So, a 7 dice physical strike going into him will do the business.
Yeah. So he does really well. Ultimately, I think there were 2 elements to this game. There was the Kingpin leadership was clutch. because there were so many occasions where it was one-on-one on an objective and Kingpin leadership was winning it. But to be honest, the big factor was Immortal Hulk didn't show up until round 4.
He needed his throws, didn't he? Because if you can't out-model them on the secures, you need to get them off. And I've had play games against Criminal Syndicate where I've just tried not to fight them.
Yeah.
I can't fight them. If I try and fight them, they stay on the points, they score, so you just get them off those points.
Yeah.
And if that your tool to do that isn't rolling those wilds, which is, come on, mate, you got 7 dice.
I know. And I think essentially it was that, particularly the first turn where he did that attack into Kingpin. If he could have taken Kingpin out or Rhino with the throws, then that would have been a really big deal. And maybe in hindsight, I should have tried to just really go for Hulk and just really try and get Hulk down. The way AJ positioned it was really clever with that kind of like caterpillar of those 3 models.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately Immortal Hulk failing to do a lot. And this is what we talked about after the game as well. It was Hulk. It was a Hulk off. And his Hulk was just more reliable with his dice than my Hulk.
Well, his Hulk as well gets better the more you put into it, whereas your Hulk gets worse.
Yeah.
Because it's still got all the same dice. And obviously when you do eventually daze him and he comes back with no power.
Yeah.
So
I'm very pleased that I managed to bring it back, but it was just those early turns where my attrition wasn't. It's the same story actually as the last game where I was really relying on those early turn attritions. And if that doesn't work, then I don't have a huge amount to fall back on. And I think that really came back to bite me in those last 2 games.
Well, unfortunately, that means you've ended the day with 1 win and 3 losses.
Yeah.
So you finished 4th in the group.
Yeah.
Let's end this there, and then let's reflect on day 1 and look forward to day 2.
I don't mind being wrong, as long as I can correct my mistakes.
Commiserations, Archie, but it's not all bad. You might have gone 1 and 3, but fortunately, you've got a chance to redeem yourself tomorrow when we go into the Shield. All records are wiped clean. You all go into the Shield as equals with a chance to come out with some silverware. But before we do that, what are your sort of overall reflections on your roster, but also day 1 in general?
So, group system that we had, for whatever reason, the draw ended up having a whole bunch of very similar rosters in our group. So, including me, there were 3 Web Warriors. There was a Hellfire Club and this Criminals list. In fact, no, sorry, there were 4 Web Warriors, including me.
Oh my goodness.
So all of those lists play quite similarly, where they go for kind of extracts and just try and annoy you with, the likes of Black Cats and Bills and that. I think I played those characters the most. And I think because I was going for Defenders particularly, that didn't work so well. Because this, like, up the middle, especially with Immortal Hulk, was quite easy to control.
Yeah, it sounds like you brought a knife to a car chase.
Yeah.
Everyone's driving around, going on the track, and you're there getting lapped.
Yeah.
Trying to stab people while they drive away.
Yeah, I'm just swinging. I think in hindsight, I would have been better off, especially in game 3. I wouldn't have predicted it so much in game 4, but game 3 in particular, I should have brought webs. I have that pivot. I think my problem is I had in my head that I wanted to play with Defenders, and I particularly wanted to play with Immortal Hulk. And actually, I should have been a bit more ruthless with myself and just said, no, these are the crises, you bring webs, and you just do that. So I think against these rosters in particular, I think webs would have been better to counter them.
It's a funny one because there's lots of reasons why we play this hobby, and there's lots of reasons why we enjoy it. You come here, you want to play games, you want to win those games. You also want to, you might have freshly painted up a model that you think looks cool and you want to see it on the table. You might really like something from the comics, so you really, really want to see it on the table.
Yeah.
But I feel like you've set yourself up to be versatile, to be able to lean into an alternative way of playing, to keep yourself competitive.
Yeah.
But perhaps your love for the model, your eagerness to get Immortal Hulk on the table has perhaps held you back. Is that fair?
Yeah, I absolutely think so. I think actually, the first game, I think definitely it was the right call to go with Immortal Hulk because of the crises. But the next 3 games, I should have looked across the table, seen the fact that I was playing these Web Warriors, these Hellfire Clubs, these Criminals with loads of tech, and been like, okay, I need to bring my own tech. I can't rely on my dice rolls because ultimately my opponent is not relying on their dice rolls. They're doing a lot of things automatically. And so I think that's where I need to come in to an event like this, where ultimately it's a competitive event. It's not one of the more casual, like, Crisis at the Cafe events. It's quite a highly competitive event. And I just need to come in with that tactical, ruthless brain to just be like, what are the best characters that I can take for this crisis?
Definitely.
I don't think I came in with that mindset.
And when we say, they're not rolling dice, what we mean by that is that they're able to use their superpowers, they're able to use automatic effects from attacks to control you
Yeah.
and to limit your ability to implement your game plan. And where your game plan is to just try and take models off the board, well, the one piece of variance in the game is dice.
Yeah.
And you really need those to go your way. Whereas, a lot of those teams you face today sound like they didn't.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an interesting part of the Daredevil leadership in particular, because the Daredevil leadership actually encourages you to roll dice in attacks particularly, and actually have a go with those attacks, because you then get those rerolls, you get the benefits. But actually it was interesting to see other ways of building rosters where it's totally the opposite, where you're actually not really that bothered about doing damage with your attacks, you're bothered about making attacks to get those triggers off or doing superpowers. So it was a tough day one. I'm disappointed to only go 1-3, but I think, I had 4 really fun games, and I think I learned a lot about the roster and about what it's good into and what it's not good into. So I was able to bank that and take it into day 2.
I hope so. And fingers crossed. Do you think it's going to be a different field going into the Shield? Obviously, a lot of those Hellfires, a lot of those webs that might be dominating in other groups and doing really, really well, probably qualifying for the plate and the cup. Are you expecting to see much more varied field in the Shield?
Yeah, I think it'll be interesting with the Shield. I think it'll be interesting to see if there are teams like mine in the Shield that other teams like mine have not done so well. Because I do think that I played against some really quality opponents that knew what they were doing with their rosters. And I think that these rosters, while they're very powerful, like the Hellfire Clubs, the Web Warriors, the Criminal Syndicates, very powerful rosters, are also quite high skill cap. So I might expect to play against other players who maybe haven't fared so well with those rosters in that Shield, because they are difficult to play ultimately. So we'll see. I'm hoping for some kind of proper up the middle scraps where I'm hoping not to see so many Black Cats and Bills personally, because they really counter a Mortal Hulk.
I imagine there might be 23 other players in the Shield who are thinking the same thing and hoping to not see so many of those faces. I'm hoping that Immortal Hulk rolls a wild, because I imagine, given the results on day 1, it has not changed your mindset on wanting to get Immortal Hulk on the table, particularly if he doesn't come to the next few events. That this is his last chance saloon.
This is his event. The list is built around him. So I'm not going to change my tune for day 2, especially given kind of the Shield will hopefully be more kind of relaxed environment than the Cup would be. So yeah, looking forward to day 2. And we had a great evening on day 1 as well. We had a great quiz.
Yeah, we did. It was so much fun, wasn't it? We didn't do too well, did we? It turns out people who play MCP are comic book nerds, and we perhaps don't hit the brief.
I think our secret weapon was our friend Zahir, who actually knew quite a lot, and he largely answered the questions for us. I also think we got worse during the quiz because we all got slightly more drunk.
Yeah, if I'm honest, it was a bit similar to the Symbiote Syndicate.
Yeah.
What's that game called? Sorry.
Separation anxiety.
Separation anxiety. It's a bit similar to that. I think I started losing focus the more I was drinking. So yeah, I was probably a terrible participant in the quiz. But yeah, ironically as well, so here's like our newest member in playing MCP. He's got the least experience playing the game, but it turns out he's got the most knowledge when it comes to the comic book. So yeah, it was a real asset.
Yeah. So that was a great way to round off day 1. However, it might affect my performance in day 2. We'll see.
Yeah, couple of sore heads. Absolutely. Right. Well, I suppose that's it for part 1.
Mm-hmm.
We're splitting these up into 2 episodes, aren't we? With it been a 2-day event. So we've got day 2 and the Mutant Weekender Shield to look forward to in the next episode.
Yeah, so stay tuned to hear how I get on. But before we go, Curtis, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram. I am Simple Edge Highlights. If you see me on Discord, I am Curtis. And if you see my name floating around in Longshanks events, I'm in there as Curtis H.
You can find me on Instagram as well, at Smeagol's Corner. You can see all our MCP and other toys there. And you can find me on the Discord as Archie_RC. And please feel free to reach out to us to talk about Marvel Crisis Protocol, all aspects of the hobby and the game side of things. And also please leave feedback for the podcast.
Absolutely. And we would get told off if we don't mention this, but we've recently set up a YouTube channel, haven't we?
Yeah, so our audio editor, Louis, has set up a YouTube channel for us, and he is super hyped for it, and he's done some awesome videos to accompany the audio. So please check that out. It's Cable's Conquests on the YouTubes.
Yeah, his graphics are so cool. So if you've grabbed your paintbrushes and you're sat down to listen, normally you're a YouTube person, please do check us out, and feel free to leave us a comment there. We'll definitely come back and answer that.
Well, I think that's everything for part 1. Please stay tuned for part 2, and thank you for coming on this journey with me, Curtis.
No problem.
And until next time, keep up the conquest.
The name's Cable. Remember it.